أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم صلوات
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
نعود علي مظهر العجائب تجده عون لك في النوائب كل هم وغم سي جلي بعظمتك يا الله يا الله يا الله يا الله يا الله بنبوتك يا محمد يا محمد يا محمد يا محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
بولايتك يا علي يا علي يا علي يا علي يا علي أدركني 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 في سبيل الله بأسمتك يا بطول أزرا مدد صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
पाक मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद की दुश्मनों पे लानत. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today is the Shahadat for Mawla Imam Ali Naqi alayhi salatu wassalam. In 2 days, the day after tomorrow, it is the Zahur of Mawla Ali Naqi alayhi salatu wassalam. Salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Mawla Imam Ali Naqi is the 10th Imam, the son of Mawla Muhammad Taqi, the grandson of Mawla Imam Raza. Salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
And Mawla Raza, Mawla Muhammad Taqi, Mawla Ali Naqi, they went through very similar duties, very similar phases. They are very alike. Mawla Hassan Askari as well. Salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
The majority know about Mawla Ali alayhi salam, about Mawla Mustafa, about Mawla Hassan, Mawla Hussain. They know about the evil doings and the tyranny of the Bani Umayyah. The Bani Umayyah were the open, overt enemies of Ahlul Bayt. There were people like Abu Sufyan, Muawiyah, Yazid, Walid ibn Utba, Usman ibn Affan. He was also Bani Umayyah. This was a whole clan that was known for its enemyship. But after the Bani Umayyah left, after the Bani Umayyah had been removed, they had been replaced by the Abbasi. And a lot of people do not know what the Abbasi exactly are. They are widely accepted as the current, or as Sunni leaders or normal caliphs, or however you would like to put it. The Abbasi originally came into power for the sole reason of wanting to remove the Bani Umayyah, people like Marwan ibn Hakam, because of all the oppression and all of the tyranny that had taken place. The Abbasi had then led a revolt where it was not a revolt, it was more of a coup. They invited the entire Bani Umayyah as guests for a dinner, and when they had all sat at the table to eat, behind each member of the Bani Umayyah was a member of the Banu Abbas, and they drew their swords and together murdered each and every Bani Umayyad. And then they took the throne, and that is how the Abbasi came into power. because they were sick and tired of what Bani Umayyah were doing. That is the story that we often hear. This is how it is told. Salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Banu Abbas was always proud of the fact that they were closely related to Mawla Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Originally, Abu Bakr, Umar and Usman, they also laid claim to the Khilafat based on their relationship, that they are the fathers-in-law of Mawla Mustafa. Banu Abbas similarly laid claim to Khilafat by being even more closely related. So they, Abu Bakr and Umar, they were in-laws, but the Banu Abbas, they are the descendants from Abbas ibn Abdul Muttalib. There are those that say that Abbas ibn Abdul Muttalib is not the direct son of Abdul Muttalib, but rather a adopted son. Some say that he is the actual son. But in any case, Abbas and his son Ibn Abbas, they were both present in the battle of Badr. But they were fighting against Mawla Mustafa. Abbas ibn Abdul Muttalib used to trade spice. He would trade spice from Mecca to Syria and back. And after a while, he managed to build up a merchant network and a trade footwork for himself. And he later worked together with Mawla Mustafa before the time of Nubuwwat. And he had the northern part of the route Mawla Mustafa covered, and he covered the other half. And he got along well with Mawla Mustafa. And he protected Mawla Mustafa on a lot of occasions. He did not, however, convert to Islam. And he was being the son of Abdul Muttalib, was then a brother of Abu Talib. So closely related. He was an uncle. But regardless, he did not convert to Islam until after the battle of Badr, when both Abbas ibn Abdul Muttalib and his son Ibn Abbas were both captured. And then when they were captured, then they were forgiven and they had taken Islam. The reason why I am mentioning this is, one, is this the origin point, but the second is to highlight that this is where it begins, where the clan of Banu Abbas were indebted to Ahlul Bayt. From there, from the uncle Abbas, all the way down till Mutawakkil and past that, they were all indebted to Ahlul Bayt. They were all in their debt. And again, repeatedly, when they were in trouble, it was the Ahlul Bayt who helped them out of it. There was one person who remarked to Mawla Imam Ali Naqi alayhi salam. He says, Mawla, I don't understand. Mutawakkil doesn't do anything to anyone except for you. He only harms you and has so many different political plots and traps for you and difficulties. But you have nothing against him? You say nothing against him? It's beyond my understanding. This is the relationship between the Abbasi and Ahlul Bayt. The Abbasi were strictly dependent on Ahlul Bayt, because without Ahlul Bayt they couldn't do anything since the Battle of Badr. And yet they were also the biggest enemies of Ahlul Bayt. Salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Now, the Bani Umayyad, they were open enemies of Ahlul Bayt. Muawiyah did not hide his disdain or dislike of Mawla Ali alayhi salam. And Abu Sufyan was an open enemy of Mawla Mustafa. Walid ibn Utbah was also openly against Ali Wali, like Jundab Yazdi. And by Bani Umayyah, there is no dispute on the matter. Everyone is very openly, they agree on it, that Ahlul Bayt and Bani Umayyah, they were enemies. They argue the points of why they were enemies, but everybody knows they were. And everybody knows that Usman ibn Affan, he was a Sahaba according to the Sunni. He was instated as Khalifa per the request of Umar ibn Khattab. But they also know that Usman ibn Affan was from Bani Umayyah, and he put his own family into governance in every different region. He put Walid ibn Utbah in Kufa, he put Muawiyah in Syria. We say Syria, but it was actually Damascus, and it covered a larger portion than Syria today. And then he also instated Marwan, he had As in Egypt, and they were all his relatives. And then a large mess began. But I digress. Salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Somebody had asked Mawla Ali, Mawla Ali, the way you dealt with the aftermath after the passing of Rasulullah, it is incredibly difficult. If it were in place of you, anyone, how would it have been? Mawla Ali responded that if in my stead anyone else were to have to succeed the Prophet and have to deal with the aftermath, the enemies would have killed that person. Mawla Ali and Mawla Ali alone was the only person who could handle that. Mawla Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, Ya Ali, your relationship to me is like the relationship of Harun to Musa. When you speak with the Sunni, or when you speak about the matter of Khilafat of Abu Bakr, Umar and Usman, then the Sunni often say that no, Mawla Ali was agreed with it. Mawla Ali was not agreed with it. And when you mention the matter of Fidak and how they tried to force Mawla Ali into doing bayat, they say that's impossible. How could you say that? Mawla Ali was such a brave warrior. How could they dare to do such a thing? That is their argument. And in response to that argument, we have that same hadith from Mawla Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ya Ali, your relationship to me is like the relationship of Harun to Musa. When Musa was also 40 days on the mountain, then 40 days later he came back, and the Jews had created a golden calf, a baqarah, that they worshipped. And Musa came down the mountain and grabbed Harun and was furious. Musa was a very intimidating person, very intimidating prophet. First of all, he was tall, very tall. He was like a giant. He was incredibly strong, and he was very intimidating. People had fear for Musa alayhi salam. He brought law. He was also very strict. And he grabs his brother Harun, and with anger he says, I left you in charge of the people. I've been gone 40 days, and what is this? They've become polytheists? You've done nothing? And then Harun says, I did what I could. But if I did any more, then the people would be ruined. I tried to protect what you have brought here, not destroy it. When Abu Bakr became Khalif, the first person who came to Mawla Ali to complain about it was Abu Sufyan. He said, Ya Ali, you are the righteous successor of the Prophet. That Abu Bakr has been instated is absolutely incorrect. With him were other people too. But Abu Sufyan led that, and he says that I am with you, and I agree with that you are the successor, and we should remove Abu Bakr. You should take the Khilafat. Mawla Ali declined. The man who fought the hardest against Islam till the very last, there was Sulh Hudaybiyah, when the Prophet signed the treaty, and then after 10 years they would come to do Hajj. They came after 3 or 4 years because the treaty was broken. The sheer numbers of Muslims that had been amassed at that time overwhelmed Abu Sufyan, and he was then reluctant but then became Muslim. So this man is now coming to Mawla Ali and he's saying that I am going to support you in this matter, and Mawla Ali says no. At this stage, when Islam has just finally become complete after Ghadir, when it is young, if now Mawla Ali does something, then that revolt or that civil war that will follow will destroy the nation that Mawla Mustafa built. So Mawla Ali brought patience, years of patience. How many years? 11 generations worth of patience. Kulluna Muhammad, Kulluna Ali. Mawla Ali brought patience, Mawla Hassan brought patience, Mawla Hussain brought patience, Mawla Sajjad, Mawla Bakr, Mawla Sadiq, Mawla Qazim, Mawla Ali Raza, Mawla Muhammad Taqi, Mawla Ali Naqi, Mawla Hassan Askari, and Mawla Imam Zamana. All brought patience. And that is what the successor is of the Prophet. The Prophet brought the religion, and the Imams brought the patience needed to keep it alive. Salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
In Greece, there's an old philosopher, or it's an old saying, that the scholars, they should do exercise, and the soldiers, they should read. Because if they don't, then they will have their fighting be done by fools and their government be led by cowards. That is a worldly philosophy. It has no bearing on our religion, our beliefs. But it is enough to answer to those people who say that Mawla Ali al-Islam was such a brave warrior, how could they dare to force him? Mawla Ali al-Islam was brave, but Mawla Ali al-Islam was also wise. Mawla Ali al-Islam did not do matters for his own well-being, but protected the nation and protected the religion that Mawla Mustafa has brought as a message. Salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
So to those people I say, we are not denying Mawla Ali al-Islam's bravery, but you are denying his wisdom. Salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
So in that regard, the matter of Bani Umayyah is fairly clear. Then comes the matter of Banu Abbas. The fact of the matter is that after Mawla Sajjad, after Mawla Sajjad passed and Mawla Bakr came, around that time is when the shift came from Umayyad to Abbasi, when they did that coup and they murdered all the Umayyads and they took over the government. After that, they kept the Imams under close watch. In the beginning, they hadn't done much. In the beginning, their attempt was to get the Imams to join in the government and to take part in it. Not to hand it over to them, but to get them to join them, to be part of it. And Islam was separated from politics by the first Imam, by Mawla Ali al-Islam. When Mawla Ali al-Islam denied the Khilafat for 9 days. In the beginning, when the Prophet was being buried, parallel to the janazah, to the burial, there was a gathering in Saqifa. And in this gathering, they had decided how to split and how to divide the power and how to continue with the governing body. And if you ask anybody, they will tell you the reason being that Islam had very much influence, it had covered a very wide population, and it was absolutely necessary to make sure that it does not go a day without governance. And that's why they were not present at the janazah, at the burial of the Prophet. There were hundreds and thousands of Muslims present, but at the burial, you have different revelations. Some say there were 9, some say there were 13. So that was the statement at that time. Then, after Usman had passed, and they could not find a Khalifa. Usman had passed because he had been murdered. It was a revolt. There was a great deal of political dissatisfaction, political unrest, and he was murdered. Once they had staged a coup, they had blocked off his home, and Banu Hashim, Ahlul Bayt, they brought peace there. And the second time around, people had snuck in and murdered Usman. Then 9 days it went without Khilafat. And they came repeatedly to Mawla Ali al-Islam that Mawla Ali al-Islam takes the Khilafat. And Mawla Ali al-Islam repeatedly said no. And then after about 7 days or so, Maulana says, why do you keep coming to me? If it were so important, then you should go to someone else. 7 days without a governing body, because now the nation is much, much larger. But back then, Persia did not belong to the Islamic Empire. Now Persia is part of the Islamic Empire. So Maulana says, if you guys can go 9 days without a governing body and are here to force me or to ask me to take the Khilafat, then what was the issue back then when the nation was so much smaller that you couldn't come to the burial of the Prophet and you couldn't wait a day? What was the real reason behind splitting the government body then, or dividing it? Salawat. So Maulana Islam made it clear then. Maulana Islam said, the Khilafat that you people are offering me is as disgusting to me as the intestines of a pig in the hand of a man with leprosy. Leprosy is that illness where your body rots before you die, where your skin falls from your flesh, where you lose fingers, where you lose eyes, ears, where you start rotting while you are alive. In the hand of a leper, the intestines of a pig, that is not as disgusting or as disgusting as the Khilafat that you people are offering me. And this is something people overlook all the time. Mawla Hassan alayhi salam was Khalifa after Mawla Ali alayhi salam. What did Mawla Hassan do? He gave the Khilafah to Muawiyah. He says, here, you can have it, under the condition you do not instate your son Yazid after yourself. And Mawla Hassan further separated the matter that the government, the politics, has nothing to do with Islam. Mawla Hassan made it more clear. Then Muawiyah went against that treaty, instated Yazid, and then Yazid wanted to get the bayat from Mawla Hussain, and that was not possible, and then tried to force Mawla Hussain, and you guys are all familiar with Karbala. After Mawla Sajjad, Mawla Bakr created the first schools. Mawla Jafri Sadiq turned it into a university, and then we had all these different branches of science and knowledge exposed to us, like mathematics and chemistry and biology and spirituality. All the religion, all the rules and regulations, all the laws and the deep understanding that we have is from Mawla Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam. And all the understanding the Sunnis have of religion, they also have from Mawla Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam. However much they have it only from Imam Jafar Sadiq. Because Imam Jafar Sadiq and Imam Muhammad Baqir were the inspiration for the Abbasi themselves to further investigate Islam. And because the Abbasi did not have anybody to employ, they employed the students from Mawla Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam. So the entirety of religion as a study today, the entirety of religion and going in depth, the fact that people study the Quran and analyze it, that is all because back then Mawla Baqir and Mawla Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam, they started teaching. They had opened a university for people to learn. And that was because they did that, because the religion had been separated from politics. After Mawla Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam was Mawla Musa Qazim alayhi salam. The influence from that university was so great that they could not deal with it anymore, and they imprisoned Mawla Musa Qazim. After imprisoning Mawla Musa Qazim and after Mawla Musa Qazim passed, the political unrest again had grown so great that they had no other choice but to ask Mawla Ali Raza to help them. We are now speaking about the Abbasi. The Abbasi entered the scene about the time when Mawla Muhammad Baqir was there. Then they had asked for Mawla Ali Raza to help, because they could no longer control the people, because the Abbasi were not much better than the Umayyad. In fact, they were much worse. After the Umayyads, there was a man, he destroyed the grave from Mawla Hussain alayhi salam. He destroyed the site completely. He had the soil reformed, he had things planted over, and he had the entire area irrigated. So you cannot recognize where the graves are from Mawla Hussain and his companions. That man's name is Mutawakkil. He was Abbasi. And he was alive at the time of Mawla Ali Naqi alayhi salatu wasalam. He was incredibly evil. There is still a photo. If you go on Wikipedia, you'll find a photo which has a coin from the time of Mutawakkil. And on that coin, if you look, then you can see his face. And he has a mustache that is very big and twirled up like this. He has a beard that is separated into 2 points. And you look at it and you think this is some kind of barbarian. It doesn't look like any resemblance of a Muslim. Just the coin already makes you think, what is this? That was Mutawakkil. He had clowns employed to insult and ridicule Mawla Ali alayhi salam. Mind you, this is Banu Abbas. This is the clan that has been indebted to Ahlul Bayt from the Battle of Badr. That was Mutawakkil. And Mutawakkil was so evil that even the Sunnis remark at how much he hated Ahlul Bayt and their followers. He's the one who instated execution by whipping. Execution by whipping. Not punishment, not torture by whipping. Somebody steals something, somebody's caught drinking alcohol, they would get 30 lashes, 20 lashes, however many lashes. No, he would give lashes to the lover, to the devoted of Mawla Ali Islam, to the Shia of Ahlul Bayt. He would give them lashes until they die. There was no set number. Lash them till they die. That was his ruling. Anybody who went to go visit the grave of Imam Hussain alayhi salam was first of all banned and outlawed, but they would also be caught and executed. That was Mutawakkil. And during that time, Mutawakkil's regime, that is the time where Mawla Ali Naqi alayhi salam was Imam around it. Salawat. And people overlook it or people underestimate it. Yazid wanted Mawla Hussain to do bayat. Mawla Hussain declined. Then there was a massacre, there was the martyrdom, there was what we call Karbala. Then there was Banu Abbas. And they decided to approach the matter differently. They didn't say, oh, we want your bayat, we want you to submit. No. We want to work together. And they used political means to try and gain affluence and influence. And if you can remember, Imamat is the protection of the religion, safekeeping of religion, so that those who want to know the truth can get to the truth. So they did not demand bayat or anything, but rather they posed themselves as in need of help. And they often were. And then they requested the Imam's help and so. But at the same time, they would make that political farce of kindness and respect, but in reality, they would place them under house arrest. They would search their homes at the middle of night, multiple times. They would burn their houses down on false allegations. On one such occasion, some advisor from Mutawakkil told him that Imam Ali Naqi, he is preparing for a revolt and he's gathering weapons and funds. And Mutawakkil had, in the dead of night, he had the home search from Mawla Imam Ali Naqi. And they didn't find anything. And they searched and searched. And then Mawla Ali Naqi directed them, however, you guys are looking for money? You guys are looking for weapons? Check over here and here. And they check that spot in the home from Mawla. And what they find one sword and one bag containing 400 dinar and another bag containing several thousand dinar. And then they found money and they found a weapon. And then when they opened that bag, they confiscated it and they brought it to Mutawakkil. Then he opened that bag containing several thousand dinar, and in it there was a letter and there was the seal. You know, at that time they have rings, they have seals to certify that this is such and such person. It contained a seal and it contained a letter. The seal he recognized, the seal was from his mother, the mother of Mutawakkil. And then he opened the letter and he read it. And in that letter was the promise and the request that the mother of Mutawakkil made when Mutawakkil himself was very sick. When Mutawakkil himself was very, very sick, falling ill, his mother was very worried. And she was worried enough that she wrote Mawla Ali Naqi alayhi salam. She says, please pray for my son, give him health, and I will give you such and such sum of money. And that was that bag. After Mutawakkil became healthy again. And then Mutawakkil was very ashamed of himself and he returned it. And then he invited Imam Ali Naqi alayhi salam to apologize. And what did he do when Mawla Ali Naqi entered the palace? He offered Mawla Ali Naqi to drink together with him, to drink wine. That is his way of saying, I'm sorry. And then Mawla Ali Naqi declined and recited some lines to him. And then he ended up crying and then leaving. But that did not change his behavior. And this was my point that I want to highlight again, that the Banu Abbas, again and again, they were indebted to Ahlul Bayt. And despite that, after the fact, he still had repeated searches conducted of Mawla Ali Naqi's home. He had placed Mawla Ali Naqi, for 20 years, he placed Mawla Ali Naqi under house arrest. No one can get in, no one can get out. All under the guise of having Mawla Ali Naqi nearby and as an important and essential part of the governing body. When Mawla Imam Muhammad Taqi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, salawat, when Mawla Taqi alayhi salatu salam passed away, then Mawla Ali Naqi said to his grandmother, he said, grandmother, my father has passed away. Mawla Muhammad Taqi had left with his wife. The wife that was offered to him by the Banu Abbas. I mean, now that's another question. Why would Banu Abbas offer their daughter to Ahlul Bayt if there was so much strife? Again, this was a very political affair. They had first wanted Mawla Ali Raza alayhi salatu wasalam to take over the Khilafat, to be the representative of the government, and they would manage the affairs. And Mawla Raza declined this Muppet government. And then they said, okay, if not that, then at least let me name you my successor in my stead. That way the people, they will be relieved when they know, okay, after Harun Rashid, after Mamun Rashid, then it will be Mawla Raza alayhi salam, then we have the patience and we will tolerate this one man. Mawla Raza alayhi salam says, if you want to do that, then you have to make a public statement that says that I have no part and I do not agree in any way or shape or form with the matters that you are deciding. I have no part in it. And this was their effort to make Mawla Ali Raza alayhi salam somehow join them so that they can keep the people under check. And when that failed and they couldn't convince Mawla Ali Raza in any way, then they poisoned him. After they poisoned him, then the political unrest grew even more. And to mend matters, they gave their daughter to Mawla Muhammad Taqi. The Khalif gave his daughter to Mawla Muhammad Taqi. One side was to settle the political matters, and on the other side was the hope that if there is then a child from there, then he would automatically be the successor from both sides. And then I will have a say in the matter again. I can legitimize my claim to the Khilafat. She did not have a child though. Mawla Muhammad Taqi had a second wife. Her name was Susan. And Susan had a son. And his name was Mawla Ali Naqi alayhi salatu wassalam. Salawat. And when the Khalif had become frustrated, then he poisoned Mawla Muhammad Taqi as well. And Maula Ali Naqi is at home, and he says to his grandmother, he says, my father has passed. And she says, please don't say that. My son is 25 years old. He's a young man in the prime of his life. Don't say that. And Maula Ali Naqi says, yes, I understand, grandmother, but the angel that is tasked with the obligation to attend and to stay nearby the imamat, that angel has left my father and has come here to me. And then she begins to cry. I'm not reading Masaib yet, but this is just the matter of the ordeals. Maula Ali Naqi was 8 years, some say 7 years old at the time. And immediately, the Khalif at the time was someone named Al-Muttasim. Immediately he places Maula Ali Naqi under house arrest, because he's a young child. And then he puts a teacher in the home to teach Maula Ali Naqi about Islam, in the hopes to sway Maula Ali Naqi away from the Shia and away from his followers and away from the teachings of Ahlul Bayt, and bring him closer to the school of thought that the government has provided. And then that teacher was close to Maula Ali Naqi and trying to teach and explaining. And he was so impressed by Maula Ali Naqi's knowledge and vast wisdom in his visible 7 or 8 years of age, that teacher became Shia. Salawat. After Al-Muttasim passed, then in his place came a man named Al-Wasiq. Al-Wasiq was less strict or less antagonistic. Strict you can't say, but he was less antagonistic to the Ahlul Bayt and to the Alid, as they were called at the time. Ali Wale, Alid. Harun Rashid, Mamun Rashid, they enforced persecution. Muttasim also enforced persecution. But Al-Wasiq, he was less antagonistic, and he gave them some rights, some freedom. He had lessened his focus on the Ahlul Bayt and their followers. In that time, Maula Ali Naqi did exactly the same thing Maula Imam Jafar Sadiq did, Maula Qazim, Maula Baqir, and taught and answered questions and helped and led the people. And his influence grew. And then the connections that were the people that were connected to Maula Muhammad Taqi alayhi salam, the people who were connected to Maula Ali Raza alayhi salam, they were able to reconnect with Maula Ali Naqi alayhi salam. They were able to reach him. And that was a great blessing for all the followers. And then Al-Wasiq passed away. And then in his place came Al-Muttawakkil. And Al-Muttawakkil, as I said before, he was famous for how much he hated the Shia, how much he hated Ahlul Bayt. He was famous for that. So, because the Abbasis needed to keep the family of the Prophet close by to pass off their own ruling, someone had also mentioned to Muttawakkil that Imam Ali Naqi is in Medina and he has a large following, you should do something about that. And then Al-Muttawakkil sends a cordial and respectful letter saying to Maula Ali Naqi that I am hearing that you are causing rebellions and revolt and you're leading a protest, and so Maula Ali Naqi responded in kind, saying that there is no such issue. And then Muttawakkil requested respectfully that Maula Ali Naqi come to the capital, Samara, at the time. And then when Maula Ali Naqi then was requested, it was a request that was not a request. It was a request that was enforced. So kind words, but hefty soldiers. Regardless, Maula Ali Naqi went. And Maula Ali Naqi then started living in Samara. And immediately upon arriving, he's placed under house arrest. Until further notice. And now it's a constant back and forth where Al-Muttawakkil invites Maula Ali Naqi and treats him very respectfully and with kind words, but he sets up games, and he sets up debates, and he sets up tricks to try and humiliate and disrespect Mawla Ali Naqi. But on the other hand, he's constantly being respectful and kind. But he never dared to directly do anything because he was scared of the influence that Mawla Ali Naqi already had. Salawat. The name Naqi means distinguished. That stands out. And people do not say it because of confusion. But the Khalifa called himself Muttawakkil. But Muttawakkil is the name of Mawla Ali Naqi alayhi salam. Salawat. So the biggest enemy of Mawla Ali Naqi alayhi salam took the name of Mawla Ali Naqi alayhi salam. That is, by the way, not a new habit. There have been people in the past who have taken names from Mawla Ali alayhi salam and called themselves most honest, most just, or most wealthy. They took the names from the Ahlul Bayt and they put them on themselves. Salawat. So then what was the style from Mawla Ali Naqi alayhi salatu wassalam? They would invite Mawla Ali Naqi alayhi salam to come into the darbar to solve various matters and such things. And in the beginning, there were people, they would openly disrespect Mawla Ali Naqi alayhi salam. Mawla Ali Naqi has been invited, they are standing there, and there is a man completely ignoring him and laughing and telling jokes and talking over him. And Mawla Ali Naqi turns to that man and he says, "Why are you behaving in such a way? You can't afford it. Why are you behaving in such a way when you will be gone in 2 days?" And 2 days later the man died. That was the style from Mawla Ali. On another occasion there was a banquet where people were invited to dinner. Mawla Ali Naqi was also invited for political correctness. And then there was a man insulting Mawla Ali Naqi. And Mawla Ali Naqi says, "You will not eat tonight. You are not permitted to eat." And then he says, "What? Why? You can't decide that. That's Mutawakkil's choice. I can eat as if I want to." And in that moment, a servant from that man's household comes and he informs him. He says, "You have to come home right now." He says, "Why? What happened?" He says, "Come home right now." He says, "Tell me what happened." He says, "Your mother just fell from the roof. She died." And he had to get up from the table right there and he had to leave. That was how Mawla Ali Naqi was. Over time, the situation had become so that the influence was great. Automatically, the servants in the palace, the people in the palace, wherever Mawla Ali Naqi was going, they would open the curtains, they would open doors, and they would serve. Because it's Mawla. And after a while, an advisor from Mutawakkil said that that's not good. That doesn't make the right impression. You need to keep Mawla Ali Naqi. You have to keep the son of the Prophet in the same conditions as everyone else. He gets special treatment, it's not going to look good in the long run. And then Mutawakkil's like, okay. Then he forbid all his servants, don't open the curtains when he enters the darbar, when he enters the throne room, don't do anything for him. And then when they made that plan that he should not receive any treatment or any service, then when they invited Mawla Ali Naqi, a breeze came in, the curtains opened on their own. You guys have heard that one, no? A breeze came in and the curtains opened on their own. And Mawla Ali Naqi walked in. Again, Mutawakkil means the one who is advocated for by Allah. They do their best and everything, the curtains open on their own. Mawla Ali walks in. Salawat. And after that, Mutawakkil then completely cancelled that. He says, no, let the servants do their job. Because them opening curtains, opening doors, bringing things, that's fine. But when the curtains start opening on their own, the doors start opening on their own, that is a much bigger problem that I can't explain to my people. And then he immediately vetoed that. We're not doing that anymore. Salawat. And this is the way Mawla Ali Naqi alayhi salam was. I was reading a doctorate paper from a lady in Edinburgh. She's an English woman. And she says in her PhD, her doctorate paper about Mawla Muhammad Taqi and Mawla Ali Naqi, she says it is very difficult to look at the matters objectively, because whatever matter you look at, whatever source you look at about the Imam Muhammad Taqi or the Imam Ali Naqi, every instance, every situation is unbelievable. Everything seems too impossible. But the sources say the same thing. You cannot find something that is not like that. And it is incredibly objective to try and see Imam Ali Naqi as just a person. Because not one account is not a miracle. Everything is like that. Mutawakkil raids the home, and what does he find? He finds the bag that his mother gave for his own health. And again, Mawla Ali Naqi's style is like this. The one who is distinguished, who is unique, who stands out. Salawat. And then this was a strange concoction or a strange mix of political correctness, showing respect, showing necessity, and then limiting the movements, house arrest, and trying to insult. There was one man, he was a Christian theologian, and they had invited him to debate with Mawla Ali Naqi. And then he asks a very difficult question, and Mawla Ali Naqi answers correctly. And then he gets ahead of himself, he gets excited, and then he asks a question he doesn't know the answer to, and Mawla Ali Naqi tells him the answer to that too. And then he gets more excited, and then he starts asking more and more questions. It was supposed to be a debate, but now he's asking questions that he had asked himself for such a long time, and he's asking and asking and asking and getting answers. And then the advisors tell Mutawakkil, say, stop him, because this is much worse. He's becoming devoted, he's becoming fanatic, he's completely forgot to debate, he's getting his questions and answered. That happened on multiple occasions. Salawat. So then Mutawakkil was faced with this problem that he didn't know what to do about it. He had a great hate, and he couldn't remove the problem that he was facing. So what he did was then he placed Mawla Ali Naqi under house arrest for 20 years. For 20 years, no one can get in, no one can get out. Mutawakkil tried to humiliate again and again. And this is what I was trying to say. Mawla Hussain, they had demanded bayat from Mawla Hussain. Mawla Hussain refused, and it was a great massacre. But then they also tried to manipulate and coerce Mawla Raza, Mawla Muhammad Taqi, Mawla Ali Naqi, their whole lives, for years on end, to give in, to somehow make some sort of compromise so they can legitimize their claim. And when that didn't work, then it was prisons, then it was house arrest, then it was trying to humiliate. They did everything they could to somehow, if we cannot get them to join us, we can try to make them look bad in the public eye, to make them lose face, and then some way legitimize ourselves. And that's what they tried their best at. They would Mutawakkil would bring his own generals, have them paraded, and then say that Mawla Ali Naqi should walk beside him. In scorching heat, he would have Mawla Ali Naqi march. And he was forbid that Mawla Ali Naqi would have a horse or a camel or anything. When you try to research, when you try to find out what happened, it is often hidden. Mawla Ali Mawla Hassan alayhi salam was poisoned, the poison was very brutal. It was a very brutal poison that tore up the liver from Mawla Hassan alayhi salam, and Mawla Hassan vomited up his own liver. And when they poisoned Mawla Raza alayhi salam, that was also a very brutal poison. Mawla Raza alayhi salam, as soon as he was poisoned, he took a cloth and he covered his mouth. And when he covered his mouth, people said, what happened? He says that I've been poisoned. And there's blood coming from my mouth. And the blood that was coming with such ferocity and such speed because the liver had been dissolved. Had been turned into a puree, into a blood, and that was coming out. When they poisoned Mawla Hassan Askari alayhi salam, it was also a poison that thinned the blood in such a way that the blood came from the fingernails. The blood came from the fingernails, from the beds. That is what they tell you in the books. That means that the poison was something that thinned the blood incredibly so. They tell you as much as that because that's as much as we can bear. But I can tell you this, that if your blood is thin enough to come from the bed of your fingernails, then the blood is also thin enough to come out of your eyes and your nose and your ears and your skin. It'll come out of every follicle and every pore. And that's how they poisoned Mawla Hassan alayhi salam. And when they poisoned Mawla Ali Naqi alayhi salam, they say that that was also one of the worst poisons. But I didn't find anything. I didn't find anything. You don't find a description. Because they hid it. They poisoned Mawla Hassan Askari, it's extreme. They poisoned Mawla Hassan, it's extreme. They poisoned Mawla Raza, it's extreme. They poisoned Mawla Ali Naqi, they say it was very extreme, but when you ask, they don't tell you why. Mawla Ali Naqi alayhi salam, 20 years under house arrest. His home raided repeatedly. They don't tell you how many times his home was searched. And it was always searched in the dead of night. It was always like a SWAT team showing up, breaking down the door, raising alarms, and gathering everyone in the home. Did you forget? Mawla Ali Naqi is not alone. His daughters are there. His wives are there. And again, they break into the home at night. Any time, and they make them all stand, and they put them all in a line, and they search the home again and again and again. How many times was Mawla Ali Naqi reminded of Karbala, of Sham? Umayyads didn't care about the hijab from Ahlul Bayt, but the Banu Abbas didn't either. Again and again they searched the homes. On one occasion, they had called Mawla Ali Naqi that he needs to come to the darbar right now. And then Mawla Ali Naqi gets up and wants to grab his turban, wants to grab his shoes. And they say, no, we do not have the time, you have to come now. He says, let me put my turban on, let me put my shoes on. They say, no, we don't have time, go now. And they pulled Mawla from the home and they made him march next to their horses. And they said, you have to hurry. And they made him run in front of the horses. Without shoes, without a turban, they just said, run. And Mawla is running, 1, 2, 3. In the 4th street he falls. In the 4th street he falls and he starts crying. And they say, you're a man, why are you crying? He says, I'm crying because this was a moment for me to remember. I am a man, I've run 4 streets and I've fallen. But now I remember, or rather I can't forget, that my aunt in Sham was being marched the same way, but she was running next to the killers of her father and falling here and there. And she said, Baba Hussain, I can't run anymore. I'm a grown man and I ran 4 streets. and Sakina was running for miles. That's why I cry. And 20 years of this. 20 years of this so that Mawla can protect Islam. That is the one who Allah advocates for. 20 years he went through these kind of situations to advocate for us. Matum Hussain. Ya Hussain.